All right, what's up, everybody? It's Wednesday, Locked on ACC here. And, we have a lot of chatter going around the ACC when it comes to men's basketball. Louisville coach Chris Mack, he might be on his way out. Separation agreement is on the way. Who could be in? Bruce Pearl, former Boston College star. Could he be finding his way to Louisville, Kentucky? I got AJ Black here to talk about it. Let's get it started.
Locked on ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's edition of Locked on ACC. Today's episode is brought to you by Sonos. Experience the game like never before with Sonos Arc, the premium smart soundboard for TV, movies, music, gaming, and more. Visit Sonos.com to learn more. I'm your host, Candace Cooper. Each and every single day, I have a rotating cast of crew that come and join me. Wednesdays, we usually get AJ Black from Locked on Boston College holding it down, talking about all things basketball and football when it comes to our conference. So we're so excited to have him back yet again. AJ, I hope you've had a good start to your week.
I have. It's been fun. I've been really getting into women's basketball. BC's women's basketball team has really been playing well lately, and I'm looking forward to watching them play more, and looking forward to talking more ACC football and basketball here.
Yeah, I love that. Can't shout out this Cam Swartz for doing the big things over there. And then, the men's team, we were talking about it earlier this week. I feel like nobody called them winning 8 or 9 games. Ain't gonna hold you. I was not thinking that Boston College was gonna do much in the conference and come away with some conference wins. Nothing to shy away from with Coach Grant and the boys.
No, not at all. And like, you go into the season, and I am the first to admit, I thought 1, maybe 2 ACC wins. They got 3 already, and and they've got more winnable games coming up. So, they get UNC coming up. They're gonna get smoked there, but
they get maybe not. You never know with this UNC team.
Yeah, well, regardless, BC is heading in the right direction. They've got 2 4-star recruits coming in next year, so they're going to get their shooters. But you see the improvement Grant has made in terms of just the defense and the morale of the team. The team seems happy. The team seems really engaged with him, and it's starting to pay off with some wins like over Virginia Tech and Clemson.
No doubt. Well, speaking of teams where things are not necessarily panning out with their coach, head coach of Louisville men's basketball, I should say, Chris Mack, is on his way out the door. They were talking about his radio show being canceled and then how the board of the school was meeting to figure out a separation agreement, and nothing is being finalized, but there is widespread expectation that he will no longer be the coach there. There's been a lot of murmurs, just from his press conferences and his mood and his energy being down. They've lost 5 conference games. It's just been a struggle. You've had players like Malik Williams who not even comment about, whether or not the team has kind of lost their interest in engaging with coach. So many things are pointing to him not being there. What are your thoughts about midseason fires in general, and just for the fact that Louisville, it hasn't been the team that we're used to seeing on the basketball court?
You have to save your locker room at some point. Boston College did it last year. They fired Jim Christian in February, and the team that season was lost, right?
Yeah.
And for Louisville, they're a 500 team or so right now. But I thought Eamon Brennan of the Athletic had it really well. He says, "You don't get credit for being Louisville. Louisville right now is a non-entity. Louisville might as well be Boston College. What a mess." They're just a disaster right now. And to hear, like as you said, I cover Boston College, but some quotes when you hear it coming out of a coach's mouth, you're like, "Holy moly, what is going on over there?"
Yeah.
When the lost thing, when he even admitted to it, "We're lost. We don't know what's going on right now." And I'm like, wow, that's a lot to admit at a press conference.
Yeah.
Mac, he came to Louisville from Xavier, not a smaller program, but a smaller, profile school, to
Right.
Louisville, one of the biggest basketball programs in the country. All the lights were on him, and he does not seem like the right coach at the right time. And if Louisville's got to move on now to save the program, they've got to do it.
Right. I absolutely agree. Now, Mac is in his fourth season over a 7-year contract. And usually, when people start talking about separation agreements, it's trying to figure out how we can get you to go quietly without having to pay you on the back end. We know all things that we deal with in terms of money issues when it comes to public universities. Now, in Mac's first season with Louisville, they earned a 20-14 record, and it just didn't really get better in terms of energy wise. Like, yes, the team has been viable, but never been on top of standings. And listen, we also have a Louisville team that's been full of scandal, right? He was a part of his, assistant coaches having scandal, and we all know, the former head coach having scandal. So it just feels like Louisville can't seem to get right on track when it comes to building the basketball dynasty that they once had.
Right, and you have a new AD and a new president coming in.
Yeah.
And do they want to deal with Mac, who has lost the fans, lost the players, and as you said, he's part of that Dino Gaudia, the legal mess there, and his name is dragged through all of that.
Yeah.
And whether he's guilty or not, he's associated with it. I mean, if you're a new AD, you're coming into that situation. Do you want that to be something that you're straddled with? No. Yeah. You want to move on. You want to find a new name.
And I'm wondering if, the new AD or, the new administration is also looking at the football field, right? I think Satterfield might be sweating on his brow a little bit, and nothing is safe. If you don't deliver and you lose the fan base and you, more importantly, lose the players, you will be out that door. So I feel like that's even more pressure on him to kind of get things right on the football field, because Lord knows we all have been not exactly Satterfield fans over here on this podcast.
Yeah, I've been pretty tough on him. Yeah, I mean, Satterfield's got to feel his seat is hot. I mean, the women's basketball coach is the only one I feel like that can be sitting there with their feet up at this point.
Yeah, right. But, and after that NC State loss, I don't know, because that was a horrible 31-9 run towards the fourth quarter, but that's a whole nother story for now.
Yeah, but I mean, for Mac, Louisville is a basketball school. My buddy that writes for SI Louisville, me and him are on text constantly, when we're covering stuff. And when, I talk to him a lot about BC football, that's usually when all my pages blow up and I get all the most traffic. He says it's not even close. Basketball is king at Louisville Louisville, excuse me. I get it right. And if you're messing up, they're going to call you on it. And this is, Mac seems like the guy, like he does not have the personality to be at a school in Kentucky where basketball is king. Yeah. And, he's probably going to get fired and he'll go to a smaller conference. It doesn't even have to be a small conference, A10, the Big East, something like that. And he'll go, and just like he was at Xavier, he will be a dominant again. But it just feels like, and we're seeing it at other schools too, where some of these smaller schools, these coaches are just staying where they're supposed to be. I'm betting Chris Mack is thinking right now, man, I should have never left Xavier.
Maybe so. Yeah. And I think maybe he might end up at a place like Iona, one of those small time schools, end up having these elite
take Patino's job.
But yeah, no, I think that, obviously do what's best for him, best for the team. However you can move on and do it amicably, I think it's always better business than having to be ushered out in a not great space. And if you think about just the state of Kentucky, as you mentioned, Kentucky basketball is doing really well right now. And whenever you look at your foe on the side of the room, you start to ask questions. So it's always, quick to say, yeah, you're not that guy. But there are potential fill-ins that I want to get AJ's, opinion on here, because I feel like there are some good candidates that could join this, strong class of ACC coaches that we have here in our current conference. But first, if you are a fan of any of our ACC teams, we strongly encourage you to get this new incredible app called GetUpside, where my listeners are earning cash back for every gallon of gas every time they fill up. They just downloaded the free GetUpside app in their App Store or Google Play, and they use promo code SCORE for 25 cents per gallon or more on your first fill up, and they got cash back. So don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Use promo code SCORE, that's SCORE, for 25 cents per gallon or more on your first tank. And when you get this cash back, it gets added right to your account. You can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon or other brands. Just download the free GetUpside app and use promo code SCORE, that's SCORE, to get 25 cents per gallon or more cash back on your first tank. So we're here with AJ Black, Locked on Boston College. You can find him and all of his Boston College content. It's all over the Twitterverse, all over the internet. He is the ins and outs when it comes to those Eagles. And we were talking about a former Eagle that could be new head coach of Louisville basketball if he so chooses. He has a lot going on right now. I'm talking about Bruce Pearl, the head coach currently at Auburn, the number one team in the country, and yet he might find himself wanting to be in Louisville, Kentucky. And to me, that seems odd because strike while the iron's hot. You got a great team. You're feeling it. The energy is there. I understand the ties to it, but why would you want to leave a good thing that's happening for you?
Money.
You know,
Louisville's going to pay him, and
yeah.
But we were looking at that tweet that had a list of possible candidates for Louisville, and two of them I'm immediately going to say are bad ideas. They could be good coaches. Bruce Pearl would be an excellent coach. He wins everywhere he goes, but he comes with baggage.
Yes.
He's the guy that has a history with infractions and all the same stuff that you got with Rick Pitino. Not as bad as Pitino, but the same kind of stuff with Pitino and that you got with Chris Mack and his assistants. You need to have a clean slate when you bring somebody in. So I don't think Bruce Pearl's a good choice. The other one that I was like, oh, same thing. Will Wade was another name. I was like, I mean, you're going to bring in a guy that's basically young Pitino. It's like really, I hate using the word sleazy because I don't know him, but it comes across as sleazy. Yeah. And Louisville, they need a good coach. And so out of all the lists, the one name that I said, oh, he would be a home run because he's done it everywhere he goes is Nate Oats at Alabama. Like there's a guy that's at a program. Yeah, Alabama's Alabama for football, but I think Louisville can outbid to get him over there. And he would be a top level ACC coach. He's got a clean sheet. He wins at big schools. Obviously, Alabama's a big school. I think he's a good choice.
Yeah, I think I agree with the Will Wade comment based on that HBO documentary that came out where it was like this talking about the scandal and the paying player. Like everything that you saw on there was just too real, for you to not believe any of it. And so I feel like, and the name of the game when it's pay to play, especially now, it just doesn't seem like the greatest fit when you're trying to have a clean slate. But Nate Oats, I think, Alabama being a decent basketball school and trying to be, somewhere where you can really be the name, the face, and be a part of that program that's going to run infamy. Nate Oats certainly would be a great next step. But like you said, money talks, and Bruce Pearl can certainly be convinced, and maybe they'll find some money from him down there in Auburn. Who knows? A lot to discuss there. But that's what we have for now. And of course, if you guys want to listen to the Locked on Louisville podcast with our guy Dalton Pence, make sure that you head over there. I'm sure he'll have some exclusive news, interviews, and more insight. He's one of our best local experts, so make sure you tune into him. You can follow him on LO_Louisville on Twitter. So there's that. Now, moving on to some football news that we love to have AJ here for. The ACC football schedule is here. The release happens on Monday, January 31st. We're excited to see who will be playing who and when. And, AJ, just because I have you here, always got to pose the question, who has the most to prove this season? Now, we've seen teams, have some lackluster years. We've seen teams who put everything on the line and they just had some really incredible runs. Shout out to Wake Forest and all that good stuff. And we've had some teams that are used to being on top and slowly found themselves in the middle of the pack like Clemson. But for you, in your opinion, who is going to need to step it up big or really feel the pressure going into 2022?
It's funny that you brought up Clemson. They're not going to be my choice because I heard Dabo's comments after the season and some of the press around him that like basically worship everything he says.
Yeah.
And that this was such a challenging season that they were, beaten. I'm like, oh my God, stop. So you have like a team full of I love Clemson. I know they're a good program. They were 10-2.
Yeah. I mean, let's not cry over it.
You're fine. You're going to get better. You had a freshman quarterback or a redshirt, quarterback in there. You're going to be fine.
Yeah.
I'm going to look at you. UNC is the team that has something to prove because this is put up or shut up year for Mack Brown. Like, I don't know how much longer they can continue having disappointing years with talent all around. And as we'll talk a little bit about recruiting in a minute, but you've infused so much talent into this program and bringing in all these 5 stars and 4 stars. At some point, that you should be able to get the results that you want and not be just above 500 team. And they're not doing that right now. And that is on the coaching staff. So for me, UNC is the team this year that has the most to put up with.
Oh, I love that. Let's call them right to the carpet. Let's do that because I feel like Carolina, if they hadn't fired Jay Bateman, if they had made no coaching changes, which they let go of defensive coordinator Jay Bateman early in the offseason, if you are not caught up there in Carolina football news, and they brought in Gene Chizik, former Auburn great, and he used to coach at Carolina. He stepped away from coaching in general, and now he's back to try and get things back in order. And when he was there, Carolina's defense was one of the best in the conference. So they're trying to go back to the whole. They're taking a page out of Carolina basketball book where they want to go with someone who is used to Carolina family, used to Carolina culture. And that's all well and good. We did that, bringing Mack back, and that's fine. However, I'm of the mind that, if some things are broke, you try and fix it with maybe something different, not necessarily what worked what maybe kind of sort of worked in the past. And so I'm fine with the Gene Chizik hire. I think the way he talks about NIL deals and kids and money, super weird. And I feel like he's not the best in terms of being progressive. But if he can get these boys to learn how to wrap up and tackle, I ain't going to be mad.
Right.
If we can get back to the fundamentals of really good football, I won't be upset. I know we got to keep the main thing. That's exactly what everyone talks about every year in their pressers. I think that Carolina you're absolutely right when saying that Carolina has a lot to prove. This should be Mack's last year. He should consider retirement if he does not figure out how to get on the board. And it's going to be even more difficult have a Sam Howell to, rely on, right? You don't have, last season, had a Gene Chizik been in place, who knows what kind of year Carolina could have had with Sam Howell at the helm. Now you have, determining factors at the quarterback position. I'm surprised they haven't dipped their toe in transfer portal because at the end of the day, Jacoby Criswell is great, but I'm always looking for one who already knows the system and has already had some starting reps. A lot of unanswered questions there. Now, I will say on top of Carolina, I feel like one of the teams that has the most to prove is Wake Forest. Was that a fluke season last year? Are you actually making progress? This is a turn page for Coach Clausen and company. Can you do it again? Or is it going to be a lackluster performance or middle of the road thing? And this was just one of those sparks because you had a young team. You also had a lot of guys who are vets. Can they figure it out?
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that because I think there was a lot of statistics that would show that this is a fluke. That was a fluky year for Wake Forest.
Yeah.
You can't let up that many points and expect to win 10 games multiple years, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're playing in the Big 12, and then that happens to every game. But they have everyone coming back. Basically, they have almost all their stars are coming back. You got Sam Hartman, you got the wide receiver Perry. I'm totally blanking on his first name.
18.
18. I was trying to think of his initials. I got AJ all stuck in my head. But you have all their star players coming back. Can they replicate that? That is going to be a major storyline, and I think it's worth watching because if Clausen can do it, he's going to be a big time name going into next year's coaching carousel. Because if he can do it multiple years, he's showing that this is something that he can replicate. Wake Forest should watch out because some big team's that can't get winning, like an Auburn or something. They can't consistently win to the level that they want to. They're going to go look at him, and go, oh man, but. There's also the possibility that they go right back to being a 6 or 7 win team and you're going, oh, well, maybe the defense has figured it out or that was kind of fluky. So they're wanting, I also want to say Boston College has to be up there too.
You took the words right out of my mouth, AJ.
I'm right there with you because this is year 3 now of Halfley and
more
coaches have gone a lot quicker than this. So, they can't go 7 or 6 wins and be happy, especially this is the last year of Zay Flowers and Phil Dracovic. You got to keep them healthy. You got to do something here. So they've got a tougher schedule and, they're playing some better teams out of conference. They got Notre Dame, Rutgers, and I'm not, I usually like to rip on Rutgers, but Greg Schiano's done a nice job of putting them in the right position. So they're going to be tougher. Yeah. And you got UConn, who I'm not going to float their boat. I'm not buying in on them yet. But you have them, and then you have your ACC schedule. You have probably improved Clemson, NC State, Louisville. They're all decent teams that could be really tough next year. So can BC take that next step? Because if BC goes 7 wins again, and knowing that they're going to lose Zay Flowers and Phil Dracovic, fans are not the halo around Jeff Halfley is going to dim real quick because he's going to start looking a lot like Steve Adazio because now they're in their 3rd year and he hasn't done anything yet.
Yeah.
So he's going to figure something out and get something going. And the challenge is already piling up because, they just lost their offensive coordinator to Pitt. Their defensive coordinator is a finalist for the Notre Dame defensive coordinator position. So they're there's going to be some shakeups, but this will be a big year to see if he can actually take that next step. And it's put up or shut up time for Hafley.
Yeah, I agree. And everyone said the reason why Boston College kind of slumped was because they had to put Dennis Grosell in because Phil was hurt. And so Phil was the reason. And now you've got Phil. So what's the reason if it doesn't come to pass? And I think that's a big part of it. And I will say, even for Pitt, defending ACC champions, like everyone counted, no one really had you as the team that was going to win it all. Fine. But are you still atop of the Coastal going to next season when you have teams with Miami, and having Tyler Van Dyke be a lot better than he was last season and getting on top of that Coastal? Virginia Tech with new energy and a new coach, are they getting back to who they used to be? And so I think as much as we talk about the Coastal being a shift, Atlantic Division is probably going to be the most interesting, and I'm excited for that because it's a fresh change. It's not, a huge spin cycle of that, but also Georgia Tech. I mean, we could really go down the list. God knows Coach Collins has to figure it out quick or he will be out of a job without a doubt.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. His seat is flaming hot right now.
Yeah. Jahmyr Gibbs going to Alabama, which hurts my heart because I wish he would have, just looked at Chapel Hill. But, it's bad for the conference. Like, you don't even feel like we're competitive enough to give you that NFL type edge or get you draft ready. And so I think that's something also to consider as we look at teams. But speaking of people getting people ready and getting them, set for life after the ACC, we want to talk about some recruiting news and why, there's some wars going on, especially in the North Carolina, South Carolina region here in just a bit. But first, BetOnline has the number one spot for all of the best sports wagering action for 2022. They've got a new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today. You can receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use promo code LOCKEDON to get started. From basketball, football, hockey, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline is where the game starts. Now it's a new year, so that means New Year's resolutions. And I know it's the end of January and you're like, oh, I got to get back on track. And there's still time. You can start February off fresh. Built Bar makes it easy to stick to your resolution because they have some really good treats that you'll want to eat, unlike most protein bars that can sometimes be chalky or not that good. If you want to eat healthy, but you just get bored, make sure you try to add a little chocolate to your life. And Built Bar is 100% covered in real chocolate. Even if you're not a huge fan of working out, you can at least eat something that tastes good and is good for you. That way, when you enjoy delicious Built Bar, you can almost count it as a workout. There you go. So go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Again, that's promo code LOCKED15, LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. So we're wrapping up the show here with AJ Black of Locked On Boston College. And of course, we talk about guys wanting to go to the next level, but first you got to get into these really great universities that we have here in our conference here at Locked On ACC and Clemson UNC. The battle came out, great article. Shout out to Grace Rayner from The Athletic. Great article about Clemson and UNC and Mac Brown versus Dabo Swinney and how the pull to go to UNC is a little bit more these days than it is at Clemson. And has Clemson lost its luster? And I don't know. I would love to get your thoughts, AJ, because I think the way college football is happening now with the NIL deals and guys wanting more than just playing the X's and O's, having someone like a Dabo Swinney who's hell-bent on not adjusting to the new times, maybe it's turning some of these new kids away.
Yeah, I mean, why? If you could go to a school where they're really embracing NIL, they have programs in place, they're working to find partnerships within the community, why wouldn't you go there? And then, I mean, I think the gleam, for years, what we've seen is those blue chip schools just hoarding recruits. They just get all the 5 stars to go to Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Michigan, USC. Now, you see with NIL, there's a chance for a player to go to Texas Tech. And, there's a car dealership there that'll take them on and pay them to do it. But if you go to Clemson, you're one of 40 stars. And so the opportunity to go to Chapel Hill, to a school that has a base there that's trying to do that, that's an awesome opportunity. And it really does change the complexion of recruiting. It really gives these elite recruits the opportunity to find new things. And you're seeing different reasons for different recruits to go to different schools. I mean, just look at what I'm blanking on his name, but the number one recruit in the country that went to Jackson State, with Dion. Like he had his own reasons to not go to Florida State, and he got, he blazed his own path. And I there's those guys that are doing that, making that choice. That's awesome. I think it really is changing the outlook of how recruiting is going. Now, I want to preface this by saying all of this could probably change if the SEC continues their gobbling up everything and turning it, becoming the one conference to rule them all.
Yeah.
If they gobble up like FSU and Clemson, forget about it. This is just going to be all the elite recruits are going to go to the SEC, and college football is going to be in a world of hurt. But right now, I mean, you want to have those opportunities to go play at UNC. You want those opportunities to go play at NC State, because you can have unique chances there that you won't get playing for Dabo.
Yeah, I completely agree there. And I think that that's one of the best parts, or how people stay long in their career, is because they adjust with the times. That you look at Nick Saban, he is the prototype. Like, he has adjusted, he has marched with players. Like, who knows what he truly believes? I don't know that man from a can of paint. He might not believe it himself, whatever, but I'm sure he recognizes all of his greatest accomplishments has come to the hands of young African-American men, and he's actually listening and taking the time to want to be involved and engaged in what they're doing, right? So I think, it's really what's the word I'm looking for? It's really setting a precedent for how, if you want to have success and you want to sustain success, you're going to have to adjust with what's going on currently. And so I think that's why we're seeing a shift in Clemson, just because I've heard people who say, like, if I ever had a kid, he would never go to Clemson, just off the strength of Dabo. And like, not even because he's not a good human, but of the strength of, like, he doesn't want you to do anything beyond football. And that's just not the reality of what a college athlete is anymore. They're more holistic. They want to explore all sides of them. They want to try music. They want to try, the NIL deals and speaking engagements, all those sort of things. They want to make money, which is, I don't blame them one bit, because if I was in college still, I would want to make money too. So it's just really interesting how it all shifts. But I will say, like you mentioned about the SEC, the ACC really has to have a step up year. We talked about that, a few minutes ago, but in terms of proving it, I really want to see a more competitive conference this season, to have potential people go to the college football playoffs. I don't want it to be like Notre Dame adjacent. I would love to see us really have that conversation of having some top teams, because it's kind of getting dull around here. Like, I liked the Georgia-Alabama game, but that was just a repeat of the SEC championship. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, but you look ahead and you go, who is that going to be? But I mean,
Yeah.
Wake Forest, no one expected Wake Forest to do what they did this year. So you could always have a surprise, and there could be a team that could really just shock people. I mean, Clemson could obviously go right back to old Clemson and just be a meat grinder and win it again.
Yeah.
But I don't know what other teams out there could do that at this point. Pitt's got some good things going.
For the sake of us, we're lucky to be a Power 5 conference that could go undefeated and get our spot. We're not like a Cincinnati where we're going to have to be perfect and then some and get some help, right? So I think that's the only advantage that we have.
Yeah, I mean, that you just need to have a good season, and Wake was so close. I mean, they win one or two more games and they would have been in. But they didn't, in the end of the day, they didn't do it. So
we live to see another day. AJ, it's always a pleasure to talk shop with you. Can you please remind these folks of where they can find you, follow your work?
Of course. I am the host of Locked On Boston College. I do that 5 days a week. You can check me out at Locked On BC on Twitter. Been talking all sorts of things. I was just talking about the Bears GM search, because they hired a Boston College graduate. I can spin anything, I tell you.
We love it.
Stories about Boston College.
Yeah.
I was telling Candace before we got on about Bruce Pearl, and I can tell you all sorts of stuff, and hopefully he hires Brian Flores, which will really make Chicago the Boston College pathway. But anyways, you can check me out 5 days a week on there. I'm also on YouTube. I'm also the editor and publisher of BCBulletin.com, part of the Sports Illustrated and Fan Nation Network. I'm about to lose my voice, so I'm going to sign off here, Candace, but thank you for having me on.
Of course. As always, guys, if you are interested in some betting action, we encourage you to hit up Locked On Bets podcast with your boy Q and Lee Sterling. Get your pod Locked On Bet of the Day. Make sure you come back here tomorrow as we talk to Tyler Aki about basketball. We'll recap some of the week games, and then we'll get you ready on Friday with Drizzy Drake. We got a preview of the weekend and all some good stuff and some best bets. So follow us at Locked On ACC. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Locked On ACC. All that good stuff. I think I have everything covered. covered. For Candace Cooper and AJ Black, until next time.